Mitchell of Rasmussen, amazing poll out this morning. Walk me through, because what you're talking about in this poll, and you're showing the American people favor, is the foundational element of a number of lawsuits they're coming after President Trump, including a big one in Washington, D.C. Can you explain what your poll shows, Mark Mitchell?
Oh, I feel dirty after watching CNN, because this is the same CNN. Harry Enton comes out and says, look at that. Everybody's super happy as measured by Right Direction. But just a week ago, with one of their own polls, they were trying to convince everybody that no, Donald Trump's approval is plunging. And if you listen to Rasmussen reports way back in January, I said the number to follow this term is not Trump approval, because they've thrown everything at Trump. He's pretty much earned his 52%. He's going to stay there. Guess where he is today? In my polling, he's still at 52%. But we saw Right Direction shoot up to 48% a month ago, the highest in our 19 years of polling. And today our right track is 45%. The exact same as Marist, the exact same as NBC. So what's interesting is they match me on Right Direction, but for some reason their Trump approval numbers are 10, 15 points to the left. Guess what? Donald Trump's approval rating is locked in at 51, 52%. It's going to stay there. Yeah. But what's new is that people like what they see out of Donald Trump's presidency, because he's finally giving them what they've wanted this entire time. And that's basically a party that's not controlled opposition that's going to go in and cut the government. Now, we've asked so many different ways.
Hang on, full stop. Also, to take on elite institutions. When I took the campaign over in mid-August of 2016, I said the key number is right track, wrong track. After Obama's 8 years of hope and change, it was 2/3 wrong track, 1/3 right track. That number almost goes back to when people realize what we had gotten into with the Iraq War back in 2004. From 2004 and then 2009 with the financial collapse, the American people realized something is deeply wrong with the country, and the elites are leading us down off an abyss. It's Trump that's got it back to 44, 45%, and he's doing big things. This is not changing, like Clinton, school uniforms for kids. He is doing the biggest geoeconomic, geostrategic pivot since World War II. He is securing the border, getting our sovereignty back, mass deportations, huge effort on the economy, bringing hundreds of billions, almost $1 trillion from major corporations that bring plants here. Everything he's doing is at a scale, just like this Election Integrity Day. This is not a small executive order. This thing goes on for page after page after page. Mark Mitchell in Rasmussen. Tell me about some of these policies you've been tracking, because we finally have a president that's broken through that barrier of the country being on the wrong track. People are coming together and say, hey, I see this guy's taking on elite institutions. He's got me in the room. He's listened to American citizens. He represents the little guy. We're making some progress, sir.
Yeah, the last time the right direction was this high was in February of 2020, and we all know what happened the following month. So this is almost like a natural extension of the first Trump term, leveled up, giving people finally what they want. We've asked about mass deportations. They absolutely want it. We ask about drastic cuts to the government. We get numbers in the 60s. And we're trying frantically to keep up with everything in the news, but we just asked about this stuff with the Venezuelan gangs. And U.S. likely voters, 64% support, only 26% oppose deporting these gang members. Like, imagine that. Like, imagine you have some unelected judge going out there and hampering the Trump administration in things that are obviously counter to the interests of the voters. Well, guess what? They don't want that crap anymore. We asked about whether this judge should be impeached or not, and it's a 2-to-1 majority yes, 49% to 24%. So overwhelmingly, they say no, like, stop this, stop impeding Donald Trump. We asked about the Democrats. Do you like the way that they opposed Trump's speech? Nobody liked it. We asked if they should cooperate with Trump or oppose him, and they say cooperate by like 20 points. And what's crazy is the Democrats they're not getting this at all. They're in a complete civil war, ripping themselves apart. Some of the numbers I sent you just earlier today are just absolutely astounding. You have the crazies on the Democrats' side trying to wring control of the mouthpiece and shifted into this like anti-oligarchy, eat the rich kind of thing that supports violent protests. And the mainstream media is doing the shilling for them still, I think, like carrying out these psyops. I can't understand why you would try and convince the nation that Donald Trump's approval rating is failing. Like last week, they were cherry picking polls like Quinnipiac and CNN. They're horrible outliers in order to paint that narrative. But we asked Democrats, like, hey, Chuck Schumer just helped kick the can. He helped sign off on this deal to increase the debt limit and avert a shutdown. And Democrats overwhelmingly approve of that, 65% to only 26%. But if you listen to the media, it's like, well, they're ready to feed this guy into a wood chipper. They want him to resign. They want to pretend he never existed. And which is closer to your opinion, Schumer is a valuable leader for Senate Democrats, or Senate Democrats need to get rid of Chuck Schumer, and Democrats say he's a valuable leader, 52% to 33%. Only 1 in 3 Democrats wants to get rid of this guy. And meanwhile, you have all these people on Blue Sky clicking the little like button on that AOC, on that Bernie Sanders, event they had out in that stadium. Like, that's not where the party should be going. And voters are screaming for the Democrats to just back off of this thing. Does the party need to be more moderate, or does it need to be more liberal? 59% of the country says more moderate, 27% says more liberal. Democrats say more moderate, 49% to 38%.
Mark, this is amazing, the numbers you've had and you've been putting up. I want to make sure we don't bury the lead for what we're covering today, which is this judicial insurrection. Please go back and tell me what the American people think on the topic of impeachment of this judge that is trying to get in the way of President Trump as commander-in-chief, sir.
So what I'll say is that there is a little bit of a tricky path that has to be traced here by Trump. He doesn't have carte blanche to just ride roughshod over the judiciary. Now, we know that they've overstepped, but voters don't necessarily know this. So should Trump just ignore federal court injunctions he believes are unconstitutional? Only 27% of voters say yes. 60% say no. But then when you talk about the very specific policy, like, hey, yeah, this judge just stepped in and prevented the deportation of these people, Americans are like, no, that's messed up. Impeach the guy. 49% want this particular judge, Boasberg, impeached over this situation with the Venezuelan gang members. 49% to 24%. Now, there's a little bit of not sures in there. The Democrats, 28% of them say yes, only 36% say no. Republicans, though, it's 74% to 14. Independents, 47% to 22%. And again, we had 64% who say, yeah, I absolutely support deporting these people who are trying to kill my children and living off the government dole. Only 26% oppose that. Even 43% of Democrats are like, yeah, deport these people. And so what I think this is a message to is Congress. You have Trump here who's trying to do the right thing. He's following his constitutional limitations. You have a judiciary that is overstepped, and you have Congress who I think by all measures can be said to have like the output's not high, right? The output is absolutely not high. Trump came out of the gate with shock and awe and Days of Thunder and whatever. And it's like a tea party right now down in the Republican House. They're taking breaks, going down to the town halls. It's like, hey, maybe you should codify that election thing now. Maybe it's time to wrap up those courts. I wish we had polling on that, because my understanding is this could be done by Friday, right? And I don't know if I want to hear about necessarily the nuclear option anymore, because didn't Harry Reid sort of throw that one under the bus just to get some judges confirmed? So I don't know, but what voters say is that this is a potential constitutional crisis. Now, we in politics know that there's probably about 30 or 40 constitutional crises so far just in, the Trump era. But we ask voters, is this current conflict between Trump and federal judges a constitutional crisis? 57% say yes, 28% say no. Now, they're not assigning blames, but Democrats are more likely to say yes. It's like somebody has an obligation constitutionally to get us out of this situation. And maybe it's the Supreme Court, maybe it's Congress. But my advice to them would be, voters are happy. They don't want this impeded. And it's just going to upset a lot of people, right? If the wheels come off of this and it all gets stopped because of this fight over judges.
Mark Mitchell, where do people go for YouTube, social media, all of it to follow? You're doing stuff every night that's absolutely incredible, and people ought to follow it daily. Where do people go?
Yeah, thanks so much. Rasmussen_poll on Twitter, and I'm Honest Pollster on Twitter, and we stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern usually. Tomorrow night, I'm doing a deep dive in all of the different ways that a scummy mainstream media pollster could lie to you. So should be pretty interesting.
Fabulous.
Lot to cover.
Well, I'll get Grace and Mo to stream that. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Steve.
Julie Kelly.